Max here. Hopefully you can hear me. I am outside today, as you can see, very clearly, partly because it goes with the theme of today's live stream. We will do regular Q&A, but I just wanted to tell you about some of my local, what do you call it? Local, not just herping trips certainly, but also just invert trips and things like that. So let's look. Nerdo is asking where people buy bugs. Hey, it depends on what kind of bugs you want, but if you're looking for isopods, Isopod Classifieds has tons of people in Europe, including Spain, that will sell to you. So, or at least it has in the past. Let's see. And hello, Nick Z in Florida. You must have some cool critters in your area, speaking of that. And Heather is in the house. By the way, your package came in, Heather. Thank you so much. I'm not sure if any of the springtails survived or not, but I'm going to try to see if I can get them culturing. We'll see how it goes. Sometimes things just, don't always make it in the post. We'll see how it goes. The weather's been crazy lately. Not your fault at all, of course. But we'll see if I can get it to work, hopefully. And I really appreciate getting some likes in. I came in and they already had 2 likes in here, so that's a nice thing. Asylum JK, hey, welcome. So, a couple of things I wanted to talk about. Hopefully you can see me okay. It's not too bad. Hopefully there's not the buzzing from last time. One thing I really wanted to say. Okay, thank you, Heather. We'll see how that goes. But I appreciate that. So, we got to see an undescribed species of firefly this past week. And let me explain, got to give you a little background. Lots of parts of the United States, like east of the Rocky Mountains and many parts, it's easy to see fireflies in the summer. It's like an inevitable thing. You just see them. They're in your yard and so on. West of the Rocky Mountains, that is not the case in general. Fireflies are much harder to find. And I talked to a local entomologist recently doing some research because I really wanted to see fireflies. I have seen eastern fireflies once in my life. That was it. But I have never seen western fireflies, and they are much more elusive. So, did a little research, talked to an entomologist here locally, and she indicated something pretty cool. She said that there was a Google map that indicated where you can find them, and she also said the times. She gave me some indication of times you can find them and so on. The interesting thing about fireflies here, a couple interesting things about them here in the West, is that they favor wetlands. You can really only find them in or very near like a marshy area, something like that. They require that as part of their life cycle. Another thing, and it's of course drier in many parts of the West. For example, the state I'm in is the second most arid state in the continental United States. So have to go looking for wetlands. They also don't start flashing their lights until it gets very, very dark. I've seen the eastern fireflies, they were glowing a lot before it was completely dark, but these do not start glowing until about 10:30ish here at this time of year, and they're only active the very end of May, throughout the month of June, and into the first part of July. So, wow, that was loud. So you get something like a 6-week window during which you can see the fireflies. It's not very long. So I used the map and found some other resources, and there's a park that adjoins a wetland about an hour from our house that is, hey little Bob, it is the preserve. The wetland is a preserve for fireflies, and the park that adjoins it is a good place to see the fireflies from. So we drove up to this place, and it was really cold, unseasonably cold. I mean, this place is fairly high up in elevation, but that didn't account for all of it. It was the second day of summer. It was, last Saturday night, and it was freezing. I mean, not literally 32 Fahrenheit, but very, very cold. Cold enough that we were wearing jackets, and we had blankets and everything. I was the only one, I think, who wasn't wearing something other than a jacket. I mean, everybody had jackets on, including me, but the rest of the family had something wrapped around them, like a blanket or something like that as well. I mean, it was really cold. And so we sat in the park. We had planned on arriving to the park early and kind of scoping things out and getting an idea of how it was going, and finding exactly where we would look for fireflies. And we did. There was this gigantic willow tree, the west end of the park. And we were told that if you look to the left or to the right of the willow tree, just right into the marshlands, you'll see the fireflies. And so it was getting darker and darker, and we were watching, and finally we saw them. We weren't super close to them. The closest one was, I want to say, maybe 20, 30 feet away. And then there were quite a few more that were, further away, but we did get to see them. First time for everyone else in my family to see fireflies at all, and the second time for me to see fireflies, still the first time for me to see this species of firefly. In fact, the species is undescribed. They're still working on that. They're doing some genetic analyses and so on. It's not closely related to the eastern fireflies that people see. So it was pretty cool. If you've never seen fireflies before and you live in the West, it's starting to be a thing. People are discovering how to do it, and so I just gave you most of the information that I know. If you want to see fireflies and you do live in the West, you've got another week or two before it happens, before they stop. So those of you who see fireflies all the time, that's cool. But these are the Western species of fireflies that if you live in the West, you may have never seen them, but you have a chance if you follow some of those directions that I was giving. So some of you have seen them. Crystal loves fireflies. Miley's seen fireflies as well. I know in Europe they have different species of fireflies altogether, and they're pretty fascinating as well. I never got to see them while I was over there, but I would love to do that sometime as well. Anyway, that was a cool thing. Some other local herping trips that we've taken lately. Yesterday I went to go look for velvet ants with my wife up in the canyon near our house. I have collected velvet ants here locally before, but I didn't see any last night, and we didn't find any velvet ants, but we did see some assassin bugs, some pretty cool ones, and I posted a picture of a mating pair of assassin bugs that I found there that were pretty cool, sitting on a thistle, sharing a fly, a romantic dinner together, I suppose. It's pretty cool. And just a couple of weeks ago, we were up and we saw 3 gopher snakes, the Great Basin gopher snakes, which get pretty large. The biggest one we saw wasn't very big. It was only about 4 feet long, I think, but we saw 3 of them. And I also collected some desert clown beetles, which I would like to share with you. These are pretty cool. And these are I find these about 5 minutes from my house. Try to make sure that I don't drop them. They're kind of active, and the way the camera works, I mean, they're pretty good-sized beetles. They're very active. They're day active, as well as, they're active pretty much all the time, in the evening, in the morning, in the middle of the day. Very active. They like a lot of vegetation. If you've seen my community page, I posted a picture of one of these guys chowing down on a little plant that it found on the side of the path. But these guys are really a lot of fun. They wrestle, but they don't seem to hurt each other. And they're always clamoring around. They love to eat lettuce and other greens, as well as different things. They'll eat carrots, they'll eat bug jelly, lots of stuff. So there are a lot of these near my house. They're called desert clown beetles because they stand on their head and will release a repugnatorial fluid if they get upset. They're a darkling beetle, a tenebrionid, related to blue death feigning beetles, but not super closely related. They're not quite as desert adapted as the blue death feigning beetles. Their water requirements are higher. Very cool beetles. They're pretty chill. I haven't been sprayed by this type of beetle very often. I did get sprayed on a live stream from a smaller species not too long ago, a couple of months ago, but there you go. Yeah, so Jay, if you catch the rest of the earlier part of the live stream, I gave some hints about where you can find the fireflies here in the West, in Utah specifically. And Nick Z saw a velvet ant today while you were at work. Cool. Oh, you got torn up by fire ants. I do not envy you that. I have been attacked by fire ants on numerous occasions when I was in Texas. It took me a little while to dial into how to avoid their nests. And so, yeah, they are crazy. But I love velvet ants. I'm really looking forward to getting some this year. I collected a couple near my house last year, but haven't found any this year, so waiting for some velvet ants. Oh, and Crystal, your jumping spider is on its way. That is awesome. I'm loving the jumping spider. Which species are you getting? I have 2 Phidippus audax, a fairly large female who's about to molt, and a male. And skippers or skipperlings. I have seen skippers. If you're talking about the Lepidopteran, I'm assuming the common name is the same where you are. So Yeah, I have seen skippers. I like them a lot. They're fun. For those of you who don't know what they are, assuming we're talking about the same thing, they are a lepidopteran that shares some characteristics of moths and some of butterflies. They're pretty cool. And Blake, hello. How are those froggies doing? And Jeremy, you get the beetle fireflies. So they're the are they the ones that have the two bioluminescent spots on their back as well as an abdominal bioluminescent area? Or, oh no, it's a different one. Okay, because they're not bioluminescent as adult, but they do in their larval stage. Okay, cool. Yeah. And yes, fire ants definitely, yeah, not fun. And very fast. I was amazed. I spent, some summertime, quite a bit of summertime in Texas as a kid, where my grandma lived, and she lived on a big ranch, and we would go around herping. That's essentially what my brother and I would do all the time. And the fire ant nests look a lot like the leavings of gophers we lived in Washington State and as a kids, and they looked a lot like that. When I was young, I lived in Washington State, and the gophers would leave these piles of dirt. And the fire ant piles look a lot like that. Generally, the fire ants are not on the surface in evidence very much, and then you step on it and boom, they just fly up your leg. Dozens of them are up your leg biting you and stinging you, and it's crazy. Okay, so you found fiery skippers in Palm Springs. That's awesome. And glad to hear it. Blake, frogs are doing great and eating well. Those are the three frogs that Blake has, the ones we're discussing now, were tadpoles from my frogs. So Blake's local here, and yeah. All right, and Heather says isopodshop.com has duckies 15% off right now until the 29th. Just found out and thought I would share. That is awesome. Duckies are definitely on my list of isopods that I will eventually be showing you. I am excited to do that at some point in the future. Rubber duckies they've got to be one of the coolest isopods in terms of their appearance. If you haven't seen them, go check them out. Very, very cool. And Jeremy Morrell says, how are your high yellow vulgaris doing? I'd love to see an update vid. I'm working on a couple of promising high yellow strains as well. Excellent. Mine are breeding a lot, and I have a ton of juveniles. I'm still waiting to see how they show up. It looks like, I'm getting the feeling that some of the adults, well, the males don't seem to show the color at all, basically, but the females do. But some of them grow up without a whole lot of it, and some of them grow up with a lot of it. So I'm trying to figure out what's going on there. I'm hoping this cohort or this generation will have some nice adults, but they're not even half grown yet. They're about a third grown or even a little less than that. But they're doing well. I've got quite a few of them. So Baguette, I love the name. And I really do. That's a funny name. I'm envious of some of the wildlife you get there. Hardly anything interesting in the UK. Well, I don't know. You've got some fun stuff that I'd love to go see. I guess herp-wise, you don't have a huge variety, and I guess in the Southwest we do have a pretty big variety of herps, which is cool. Little Bob, you're funny. Nature Zone says, I'll give you 2 species of Muckgravia and maybe some other plants for 5 rubber duckies. Okay. Well, when we get to that point, we may be able to do that. That sounds like a pretty good trade to me. The Muckgravia is a pretty cool plant. And Ireland only has 1 reptile. At least England has a few snakes. Yeah, they've got the grass snakes, and they've got don't they have the adders there? Is that, I'm not sure exactly about what you got there, but is it a lizard you have in Ireland? Is one of the lacertids? And the seller did not tell me the name of the spider. It's like a gray-brown color. Interesting. Okay. Well, it's probably Phidippus audax then. If you do a search for Phidippus audax and let me know if that's the same one, we could find it out. And Jeremy's saying most high yellow strains aren't a simple recessive trait. They have to be selected for and culled out over many generations. Yeah, that makes sense. And I've been working on that for, I want to say this is some of them are at least the 4th generation, so it's been a while. Oh, sorry everybody, I realized I was just on top chat, I've just sped up the chat now, so now you can chat a little bit more often. Okay. According to Bush says, hey there Russ, enjoying a live chat outdoors today, great change of pace. Yeah, thank you. It was partly born of necessity because people were setting the table and doing dishes and whatnot, and I thought, oh, the live stream's not going to work very well if that's going on, so I stepped outside right before the live stream was about to start. But it's fun. You can probably hear the wind chimes right behind me. You can probably hear the cars going by, but it's kind of cool. Next time I might do it on our bedroom deck because it'll be a little quieter. But this is just on the side of the house here. And okay, it's either the puff adder or death adder or something like that. I've heard some kind of adder in England, I think. And Jeremy says, females typically exhibit the yellow far more, but males can start to show the colors as generations go on. Cool. That makes sense, that sometimes what is originally sex-linked is not always, and that's happened with some other creatures, so that makes a sense. So Nature Zone, what are you going to be selling? Just all the different vivarium plants? And Heather, that's right. The giant millipedes in England, you can get so many different types of millipedes. So maybe you could put it this way, that you may not have the diversity of herpetofauna in England that we have in some parts of the United States, but you are certainly, you have access to more exotic millipedes than we do, as well as things like phasmids, walking sticks. You can get a lot of different kinds of phasmids over there. Kind of hard to do here. Ooh, thanks, Jay. Jay's Crazy Obsessions, I really appreciate it. Get some likes going. Okay, so Little Bob, yeah, it probably is a Lacertid. I think that's the genus Lacerta that's over there. And hey, one like is something. I appreciate that. Okay. Okay, yeah, that makes sense that the bite is one of those, it's like a necrotoxin, is that what they call it? When it bites and it causes localized necrosis. Miley Morkey says, love genetics. My guppies are showing a trait that wasn't found in the purchased parents. Cool. Yeah, it's really interesting to do things like that. I remember years and years and years ago when I bred convict cichlids, I loved watching how that worked because I had an albino, or a pink convict, I guess, and a normal, bred them together, and of course all the babies, because the parents were both homozygous for their traits, the babies were all het for albino, but none of them showed the trait. But then the next generation I got approximately 25% albinos, or pink convicts, which was cool. And according to Bush says, I missed my Gonoceros species hatching this morning, but the nymphs were beautiful. Oh, that's awesome. Congratulations on that. And yeah, you do get a nice variety there. Okay, cool. Nature Zone. You know, liverworts, I want to try some liverworts. I used to grow aquatic liverworts a lot. Not a whole ton of them, but just a couple different species, but I really liked them. I kind of want to get back into those. They're fun. Well, at least, Little Bob, you can buy snakes there though, right? Is that true? So, Jeremy says, I found a few native phasmids in California in the Temema genus. They're of a very ancient phylogenetic origin. Cool. That is one creature I've never found a wild phasmid. I've seen captive phasmids before, but I've never ever seen a wild one. I know they exist in my state in certain places, but they don't appear to be very common where I am. Once in Texas, I found a Bronerea borealis, which is a mantis that kind of looks like a phasmid. It's a very long, elongated one, and at first when I caught it, I thought, oh, this is a walking stick. Then I realized, no, it's not. It's a mantis. And only later did I learn the scientific name of it. Oh, cool. So Heather Jensen's they're gonna be registered as a monarch way station habitat. That is awesome. And Baguette has seen an adder once. That's cool. And Crystal says is looking for Phidippus. Cool. Okay, well that's good, Little Bob. You can buy some snakes there. All right. So Jay wants to know what fish I'm breeding as of now. Doing the super reds, and those are the plecos and platies, and begun attempting pea puffer. Cool. At the moment, I am only breeding 2 species of fish. I've bred quite a few in the past, of course, but at the moment I'm only breeding the Neolamprologus multifasciatus, the Maltese shell-dwelling cichlids, and a colony breeding setup. And then I just saw at least one new fry recently, by the way, which is cool. And then they breed in fairly small numbers typically. The clutches aren't huge. I've had clutches as large as 6 or maybe 8, and clutches as small as 1. And then, of course, the blue star endlers. I'm breeding those as well. Can't get them to stop. Wish I could get them to slow down. Those are the 2 that I'm breeding at the moment. I'm keeping more fish than that, but those are the only ones I'm breeding. And then Miley says the offspring have a primary orange on the whole body or on the tail without markings. I think that's because of a slight orange faded patch on the female white guppy's tail. Cool. And you're also going to end up getting some, some hets. Those guppies are probably het for some traits that are going to show up because a lot of times the guppies in the stores, especially when they're mixed, you'll get some of the het traits showing up after a couple generations. And Nature Supporter, welcome. Jeremy says the ones here are only about 1 inch long and very sticky with short legs. Interesting. Some cool evolutionary history and speciation. I better look into them. Awesome. Asylum. Your leopard gecko must be hungry. Tried to eat my face. Too bad you didn't get that on video. That would have been cool. Outdoors and Botanical. Hey, how's it going? Doing well. What do you do to organize all your animals for easier maintenance? Well, great question. One thing that I do is I have a task sheet that's up on the door of the critter room, and I've got it organized by day. So Monday's got a column, Tuesday's got a column, and so on. And I arranged it in a way that I thought would make it logical. Like, I think I've got isopods in one row and different things like that. So that helps. And that is for my son to do, because I can no longer, it's been a while that I can't take care of everything myself. I could do it for quite a few years, but as things have changed and gotten busier, I can't. And so I have hired my son part-time to do that, and now he does everything on the sheet, and I do the rest of it, and it works pretty well. That's what I found out that I can do that really, really helps. But even if I didn't have my son working for me, I would have everything probably written down on that task sheet and just go through it each day just to make sure I don't miss anything. I think that's been helpful. And Miley, that makes sense. I am bad in the sense that I feed my live bearers a lot. I don't overfeed them from the standpoint of not enough to make them sick, kind of overfeeding, but I feed them enough that I'm sure I'm encouraging more breeding than I should be, and I need to calm down with that. That's probably true. I think part of the deal is I've got a huge pothos plant growing out of their tank. It's probably 8 or 9 feet long now, some really big leaves on it. It's grown all the way along the window in the room, and then all the way up the side of the window, and also in different directions as well. And I want to make sure it's getting enough nutrients. I am dosing it with Easy Green twice a week, and that I'm sure helps. The plant's doing really well. But even that is not enough to keep up with the nutrients of the guppies. So the tank itself is not doing great in terms of what it looks like. It looks pretty bad inside because it's got algae and stuff growing in there. So I was hoping, the experiment was, could I get a pothos plant to pull enough nutrients from there that I wouldn't have to worry about excess nutrients in the tank. So far, that's not proving true, and I'm sure as the pothos gets bigger, it will become more true, but I'm trying to also see if I can get some nice looking plants going in the tank. So it's an interesting balancing act. So far it's failing, but it's an interesting experience. It's all the same. Jay, ooh, caught the coolest spider fight, as in on video? That would be cool. And Little Bob, yes, we call them Devil's Coachman, I think, most of the time, but we do have them. I've seen a few around. I don't see them very often, but I do see them. Oh, how much does my son, well, my son has 2 jobs, so my job that he does for me is like a side job to his other job, but he gets, I don't know, it's probably something like $8 an hour. I'm not sure exactly how it works out. And it depends on, the week. Some weeks I'll give him more jobs to do. Like this week, I paid him extra because I was doing bug presentations, and so I paid him to help me, and I paid my daughter too to help me pack up for that, because I have to pack all the bugs and get that all ready. And so, yeah, sometimes I get more, depending on how that goes. Nature Supporter says, got an ant colony that most likely got 30 queens. Wow. So you're saying your ant colony produced that many queens? That's pretty crazy. And Crystal, what kind of fish are you getting? That's awesome. Okay. Well, overfeeding is a pretty tricky thing to talk about because it kind of depends on what you mean. It depends on your water changes. It depends on how many fish you have. It depends on, a lot of different things. For example, if you have a lot of heavy plant growth, I think you can get by with slightly heavier feeding than if you don't. The same thing goes for heavier water changes, or, higher filtration makes some difference too, things like that. So yeah, it's hard to say. And also what you're feeding. Some foods are messier than others, and I feed my fish probably something like 4 to 5 times a day, but only a little bit at a time, so that it's gone within a few seconds. But so there's all that to consider too, because generally fish in the wild, with the exception of some predatory fish that eat big things, are eating a little and often all day. And so I kind of try to mimic that, but at the same time it does really get them breeding really fast. So like Miley is saying, you feed them every day, they're going to breed more than if you feed them every other day or something like that. It's true. So Little Bob, you've got some ants right now? That's cool. So Crystal's getting into mollies and guppies. Cool. Live bears are fun, and they're a good one to breed, of course. Little Bob, so oh yeah, you don't want to get bitten by a devil's coach. Yeah, that's true. All right. Okay. So right now you have a male betta. Nice. Okay. Well, glad those ants are doing well for you. Yeah, 5 gallons is a pretty good place for betta. You can even go to a 10 or a 20. I've done that before, but 5 was pretty good as long as you keep up with the water changes. You can do really well. Oh, that's too bad. Lost the mollies. And Miley says, fed mine twice a day and now have 100 guppies. Live bears are hyper. Yeah, true. So Nature Zone, you're getting rid of a lot of your animals. Well, you got to make that decision. That's something that, when you know that it's time to do that in a responsible way, that's better than some people who will just keep them when they can't really take care of them, and they still try to keep them. So that's a responsible thing to do, as long as you make sure they have a good home. All right. Yes, life bearers are fast. And outdoors and botanical. Should totally make a video of finding wild insects. Yeah, I should. Maybe I should have made a video of finding the assassin bugs yesterday. That was kind of fun. I'm going to try to do that with some velvet ants. Okay, I'm going to try to make a video of finding the velvet ants when I catch some. I've been on probably half a dozen velvet ant collecting trips this summer, but found nothing. But I'll try to do that. So Heather says, all my millipedes are currently buried in the soil, and I'm mad that I can't peek in and see them. Yeah, that is a frustrating thing about millipedes. They'll often do the mass molts, and then you can't see anything for a while, and you kind of worry about them. Yeah. And when is the next little herp trip? I've been trying to go at least once a week, sometimes twice. So hopefully soon. Hopefully really soon. I actually want to make a video of the herping trip that I did back in April down in the south. So I got to see a lot of creatures that were really cool. Well, let's see, Nature Zone. What do you got? I'm almost full on stuff, but I have a little bit of space maybe for some things. I don't have a ton of space at the moment, but you can let me know what you have. It's available, and I can tell you whether or not I can do that. Oh, you know what? It's just about time for me to be done. I've got a couple more minutes because I started a little bit early. No, I didn't. I started right on time today. Woolly bear caterpillar, Crystal. I have seen those. I'm trying to remember when the last time I would see them. I used to see them as a kid when I lived in Washington State. But yeah, I don't know if I have seen any for a while. So nature supporter, you have all those queens together? I remember the first time, well, the only time I ever had a permanent ant colony, I caught, I think, 3 or 4 queens, put them together, and they coexisted for a while, and then as the colony started to mature, one queen killed all the rest of them, which was crazy. Oh, you found some cherry millipedes. Cool. Nice dorsum tentacle. So Miley, you're going to have swordtails, putties, guppies, indlers, and mollies. Wow. The guppies and indlers will definitely hybridize. The swordtails and platies will probably hybridize too, but as long as you can, keep them within the tank and not disseminate them as pure species, then it's probably okay. Okay, well, let's see. So Nature Zone. Those are all cool ones. I'm not sure. I'll have to look into things and see where I am on that. See what I have in terms of space and everything, because I am pretty tight. But I will ponder that. So thank you for the offer, and we'll see how it goes. All right. Well, it is time for me to wrap up. So unless you have any final things to say, then I will see you soon. I have some pretty fun videos coming up. I had a cool experience locally that was in a facility, not outside, that I'll be sharing with you pretty soon. And Nature Zone, do you have a website? If you do, post a link in the comments to this video so that everybody can check it out. And according to Bush, I do have orange vigors. I have a lot of them, so I can help you out there. Most of them are juveniles at this point, but I've got a ton. So yeah, contact me. I'll set you up. Some of them are even yellow, which is pretty cool. And all right, so Nature Zone, check him out on YouTube. You can leave him comments, and maybe Nature Zone, you can make a video of the things you are selling. Why not? Thank you, Manala, and thank you, everybody. I will have an amazing evening. Thank you. And baguette, I'll have 5 baguettes a day. I'm trying to watch my carbs. Maybe I'll only, maybe I'll only have 4.5, but it sounds good. Okay, like Spike is a great idea, Heather. Thank you. And see you all later. Have a great evening. Thanks for joining.